Hey guys, welcome back to the bench. Today's video is how to reload 9mm, and I thought I'd beat this dead horse a little more and show you how to as well. Let's get flogging. Today's ingredients are CCI small pistol primers, Ammo Incorporated 115 grain full metal jackets, and some Hodgdon tight group, all loaded into some range brass. How lovely is that? So we'll start by tumbling the range brass in a mixture of corn cob and walnut media, with the dryer sheet thrown in there just for some smell measure and dust reduction. On the other side of this table, let's take a look at our dies here. Lee Precision dies come with a great instruction booklet that has case dimensions, load data, and how to install it onto your press. Let's take a look in this box here. So first we get a powder scoop, a shell holder, our resizing and depriming die, a expanding die with a powder through hole, bullet seating die, and lastly a bullet crimping die. The press I'm using today is a Lyman T-Mag press. It's a turret press, which is better for this operation than a single stage, but you can still make a single stage work. We're going to start by installing our case holder and working on to the first die here. Start the die into the press and then raise the ram to the top of its stroke and screw the die in until it contacts the shell holder. Go ahead and set the lock ring. Make it snug, but you don't want to make it too tight. The second die is the expanding die. I've put a mark on it to index it for we have to turn it out one complete turn after we touch the shell holder here. So you'll see, screw it down until you touch the shell holder. Back it off one complete turn. Set the lock ring, make sure that the die doesn't move. And I'll give you an example of what this die is supposed to do. So here we have a piece of sized brass, deprimed and sized. It goes into the expander. The expander bells out the mouth of the case just a little bit to accept bullets. Up next, we have the bullet seating die here. In similar fashion, raise the ram to the top, screw it in until it touches. And for this one, we're going to put an index mark there, and we're going to unscrew it 3 full turns. Lastly is our crimp die. Just like everything else, raise the ram to the top, screw that die in until it touches the shell holder. In this one, we're not going to unscrew, so just go ahead and set that lock ring. If it's your first time setting these dies up, it's a good idea to back out the adjustment screws on both the bullet seating and the bullet crimp die to make sure that they don't interfere when you start reloading. So now that we've got our dies set up in our press, it's time to pull our cases out of the tumbler. I've let these tumble for about 4 hours, and you'll see they're nice and shiny. You don't have to tumble them that long, but I just prefer it for good-looking brass. Today, I'll load 15 for you guys, so that way you can see all the steps 15 times if you need to. And we're going to head over to the press here. We're going to install our primer catcher onto the press. I use Imperial sizing die wax. I find this stuff to be a lot better than like the case lube and the case lube pads, because those just get really messy and your hands get all covered. This one you only have to cover your finger. You just lube it up around with your finger. And you don't have to go crazy with it. A little goes a long way with this stuff, which I really like. And we'll just go ahead and start resizing and depriming all these cases. Making sure you want to make sure that you hit every case. You don't want to get a stuck case. So make sure that you lube every case before it goes in. And then we'll dump the biscuits out here. Forbidden Scooby snacks. Alright, now to start trimming the cases. Usually you don't have to trim range brass 9mm, I've found most of the time. But if you end up having to, here's how you do it. It's always a good idea to trim your brass if it's over the length. That can cause headspace issues and malfunctions in your gun. But as you see me doing here, I'm just setting up this trimming tool for 9mm, so I'm using the 9mm insert. I'm going to use a case that is shorter than the minimum spec, and I'm going to use that to, you know, calibrate this trimmer effectively. I'm just going to set it to trim at this length. So if there's anything longer than this, it's going to get trimmed down, and I'll clean them up. But you do need to pay attention to this. It can bite you in the ass if you load a whole bunch of brass, or a whole bunch of brass that's too long. But as you can see there, I didn't take much off of this case. This is the only one that I found. Of course, don't forget to chamfer and deburr. I don't do it by hand anymore. I bought myself an electronic trimmer and chamfer tool, and they're amazing. I highly suggest it. You save so much time. Right, these cases are ready to be primed. So let's head over to the press, install our press priming arm, which I prefer to do on the press because priming by hand, it just hurts and it's not as consistent. We're going to go ahead and index the press over to the expander die. That way we can knock out 2 steps in one here. So we'll expand and we will prime the same case in the same stroke. Just the little things, you know, that help you save time. Make sure that your primers are flush with the back of your case. If not, go ahead and give them a little extra oomph. But we'll just do this for all 15 here. So after expanding and priming all of our cases, it's time to get the gunpowder a-flowing. Today we're using tight group. I'm loading 4.1 grains of this stuff, but you should start at the bottom of the load data. Hodgdon has a free website that has free load data, and it starts at 3.8 grains at a starting load for a 115 grain bullet. You see here I am zeroing out my Redding analog scale. You adjust the zero with the little thumb screw there until you get something looking good like that. Next up, we're just going to set our powder charge to 4.1 grains. Just like that. Now you can trickle, you can scoop. I prefer to use a metering device like these, powder throwing device like this. I find it to throw very consistently, but if you need to adjust it, you can adjust it via the internal. There's a screw inside that adjusts how much powder is allowed into it at any given moment. So by screwing it out, we'll allow more powder to be into it. So you see we're throwing a little bit high there. We'll screw that back in. See where we're throwing, where our powder charges are throwing now. Right on the money. We're going to go ahead and set the lock screw there. Now it's a good idea to check this every 5th round when you're reloading, or you can check it every single round like I used to do it, but I do it about every 5th round now. I will throw a powder charge onto the scale. But for the most part, I trust my equipment. It's a good idea to leave the bullets out. That way you can tell if you've double charged anything. And now we're going to go back to the press. We're going to take our charged case. We're going to index over to the bullet seating die, which has been adjusted fully out, as you'll see here in a moment. We put the bullet on the case, raise the ram, and voila, didn't even seat the bullet at all, which is totally fine because it's easier to seat a bullet deeper than it is to pull one out. So go ahead and adjust that thumb screw on the top of the die down until you start getting the bullet to seat. The cartridge overall length that we're looking for today is 1.100 inch, so 1 inch and 1 1/10 inches, I suppose. But my variance is going to be a little bit about 10 thousandths over that length, which is perfectly fine. They fit into my magazines. You'll just have to see what fits in whatever particular firearm you're using. But for this case, 100 or 1 inch, 1.1 inches is about where we want to be. So we just adjust. We just keep adjusting that little thumb screw down until we're right in the zone. Once we're there, we'll seat another bullet and double check that it's still seating the bullet to the correct length, which it is. So we're just going to go ahead and run all those bullets in. And throughout the whole process, I'm always double checking my dimensions, you know, whatever and at whatever given task we're doing. And last but not least is the crimp die. Now, technically, these bullets are live ammunition and they can be fired and they would operate flawlessly, I'm sure of it. But just for that little extra bit of peace of mind, I do like to give my 9mm bullets crimp, just to make sure that they're not moving around in the case. It keeps the bullet from physically moving in and out of the cartridge. So how we adjust that is we put the 9mm bullet all the way up to the top and adjust that screw down until we feel resistance. We add about an 1/8 turn, and then bingo bango, you're crimped. I don't run too much crimp, but just enough to keep those bolts from moving. Checking in the case checker here. Good to go. And we'll just continue on. Rinse and repeat for the rest of them. There we go, 15 gorgeous bullets ready to go shoot. So, I took these bullets out to the range with a chronograph because it's always a good idea to get an idea. Now, the load that I worked up here, I figured would shoot about 1,100 feet per second. And as we'll see here, it's right in that zone. It's always kind of scary pulling the trigger on your first hand reloads. But as long as you take extra care, you should be totally fine. As you can see here, we're looking 1150, 1120. That one didn't register, but overall, the velocities are in the range that I expected them to be. Now it's just time to have some fun.
Find out. Oh! Oh! Yeah, it's just a light primer striker zone.
Well, overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Maybe you learned something. Maybe I missed something. Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Shout out to my cameraman. Thank you, Neil. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.